Population growth analysis. During this lecture, we will study the population dynamics by understanding different models of population growth. In this chapter, we will also get an overview of various factors involved in population regulation. Let us first start with the study of population growth. Population has characteristics pattern of increase in a specific period of time, which is called population growth. Population growth represents the interaction of biotic potential and environmental resistance. Population growth occurs when birth rates exceed death rates or immigration exceeds emigration. Population growth can be explained using following demographic equation: Nn is equal to Nt plus B minus D plus I minus E, where Nn represents number of individuals in the beginning, Nt indicates number of individuals after specific time t, B is the number of births, D is number of deaths, I represents immigration, while E indicates emigration. All populations have a tremendous capacity for growth. However, unlimited population increase does not occur indefinitely for any species, either in the laboratory or in nature. Let us imagine a hypothetical population living in an ideal unlimited environment. To simplify, let us ignore immigration and emigration and define a change in population size during a fixed time interval based on the equation. Change in population size during time interval is equal to births during time interval minus deaths during time interval. In mathematical notation, it can be written as delta n by delta t is equal to B minus D, where n represents population size, t represents time, B is number of births, while D indicates number of deaths. The difference between per capita birth rate, that is capital B, and per capita death rate, that is capital D, is the net reproductive rate or per capita growth rate, that is small r. Population growth rate, denoted by dn by dt, can be calculated as the product of the per capita growth rate, that is small r, and the population size, that is capital N. dn by dt is equal to Rn. This is the fundamental equation describing population growth, and this equation is always true. A population may grow exponentially or logistically as shown in the figure. Let us study the exponential model of population growth. The exponential model of population describes population growth in an idealized unlimited environment. Population growth under such ideal conditions is called exponential population growth. Under these conditions, it is assumed that the maximum growth rate for the population is R max. It is also known as the intrinsic rate of increase. The exponential or geometric population growth curve is described by the formula dn by dt, that is equal to R max into n, where n indicates present population size, t is time, R max represents intrinsic rate of population increase. The size of a population that is growing exponentially increases at a constant rate, resulting in a J-shaped growth curve when the population size is plotted over time as shown in the figure. J-shaped curves are characteristic of populations that are introduced into a new or unfilled environment, or whose numbers have been drastically reduced by a catastrophic event and are rebounding. However, populations cannot grow exponentially forever. For a limited time, some populations may grow at nearly R max. Real populations do not grow exponentially for long because of environmental limitations. When a population is growing in a limited space, the density gradually rises until interaction reduces the rate of increase, ultimately leading to a reduction in population growth. This is called as the logistic growth. Now, we will understand the logistic model of population growth in detail. The logistic model of population growth produces a sigmoid or S-shaped growth curve when n is plotted over time as shown in the figure. Natural population growth more closely resembles an S-shaped curve. The S curve differs from the geometric curve in two ways. First, it has an upper asymptote, and second, it approaches this asymptote smoothly, not abruptly. This logistic model of population growth incorporates the concept of carrying capacity. Ecologists define carrying capacity, denoted by capital K, as the maximum stable population size that a particular environment can support. Typically, resources are limited. As population density increases, each individual has access to an increasingly smaller share of available resources. Ultimately, there is a limit to the number of individuals that can occupy a habitat. Carrying capacity is not fixed but varies with the abundance of limited resources. Energy limitation often determines carrying capacity, although other factors such as shelters, refuges from predators, soil nutrients, water and suitable nesting sites can be limiting. If individuals cannot obtain sufficient resources to reproduce, the per capita birth rate will decline. If they cannot find and consume enough energy to maintain themselves, the per capita death rate may increase. A decrease in B or an increase in D results in a lower per capita rate of increase R. In the logistic population growth model, the per capita rate of increase declines as carrying capacity is reached. If the maximum sustainable population size, that is the carrying capacity, is K, then K minus N is the number of additional individuals the environment can accommodate, and K minus N by K is the fraction of K that is still available for population growth. By multiplying the instantaneous rate of increase R by K minus N by K, we modify the growth rate of the population as N increases. The logistic growth curve can be represented by the formula dN by dt is equal to Rn into K minus N by K, where N is present population size while T indicates time. R is constant, called the instantaneous rate of population increase, while K is the carrying capacity or maximum number of individuals an environment can support. When N is small compared to K, the term K minus N by K is large and the per capita rate of increase is close to the intrinsic rate of increase. When N is large and approaches K, resources are limiting. In this case, the term K minus N by K is small and so is the rate of population growth. Population growth is greatest when the population is approximately half of the carrying capacity. At this population size, there are many reproducing individuals and the per capita rate of increase remains relatively high. The logistic population growth model provides a basis for considering how real populations grow and can construct more complex models. The model is useful in conservation biology for estimating how rapidly a particular population might increase in numbers after it has been reduced to a small size, or for estimating sustainable harvest rates for fish or wildlife populations. After studying both the models of population growth, let's correlate the knowledge of population ecology with the aspect of evolution. Population ecology and evolution. The important synthesis regarding population ecology and evolution was done by MacArthur and Wilson in 1967. According to them, populations are outcome of either R or K selection. R selected or opportunistic populations have a high intrinsic rate of growth and tend to boom when environmental conditions are favorable and best when those conditions deteriorate. R selection favors traits that maximize number of offspring. K selected or equilibrial populations have relatively constant density at or near carrying capacity of the environment. K selection favored traits that improve offspring quality. Different environments and population densities can favor different reproductive strategies. Depending on the reproductive strategies, different species can be characterized as R or K species, where R is the instantaneous rate of population increase, while K is the carrying capacity. The R species possesses characteristics of high biotic potential, rapid development, early reproduction, single period of reproduction per individual, short life cycle and small body size. On the other hand, K species possesses characteristics of low biotic potential, slow development, delayed reproduction, multiple periods of reproduction per individual, long life cycle and larger body size. Populations of R species usually remain below the carrying capacity and are regulated by the density independent factors, while populations of K species are usually maintained near the carrying capacity and regulated by density dependent factors. In disrupted habitats, R species are more common, while K species are common in stable habitats. Many of our agricultural pests are R species. Most organisms, however, actually have attributes that fit both R and K species. Regulation of population. After having knowledge of population characteristics and population growth, now we will get the information regarding various factors responsible for regulation of population. Population ecology involves the study of population abundance and how it changes over time. The main focus in the study of population dynamics is on the complex interactions between biotic and abiotic factors that cause variation in population size. Some populations show radical fluctuations in size over time, while others remain relatively stable. Eventually, all populations stop growing. Various environmental factors stop a population from growing. Reasons for population regulation and its significance has become a subject of great interest for most ecologists. Crucial to study of population regulation are various interactions between a population and its resources. A population can decline because it lacks resources. Populations are limited by the resources in their capacity to grow. The maximum number of individuals an environment's resources can sustain is called the carrying capacity. Typically, after a period of exponential growth, growth levels off or even stops when the carrying capacity is reached. The logistic model and its derivatives assume that a population will level off at its carrying capacity, that there is an upper limit to population density set by the environment and that the population is regulated at or around that level. Krebs in 1985 presented an account on population density regulation. 4 different aspects can be considered for regulation of population. Let us start with the first aspect. First is nature of factors that influence population density. Generally, there are 2 types of population limiting factors which regulate the population size around carrying capacity: density dependent factors and density independent factors. Density dependence occurs when the population growth rate or constituent gain rates like birth and immigration or loss rates like death and emigration vary casually with population size or density. When these parameters do not vary with population density and grow almost exponentially, they are density independent. Density dependent factors increase in their proportional effect as a population increases. They are generally related to the carrying capacity of a population. Logistic growth equation deals with density dependent controls. Limiting factors become more intense as population size increases. Per capita birth and death rate also fluctuate in response to population density. Density dependent factors help in stabilizing the population. This is a type of negative feedback. Negative feedback prevents unlimited population growth. A variety of factors can cause negative feedback on population growth. One of the major density dependent factors includes competition. Rate of population growth is increasingly depressed by intra-specific competition as density is increased. Resource limitation in crowded populations can reduce population growth by reducing reproductive output. Intraspecific competition for food resources can lead to declining birth rates. In animal populations, territoriality may limit density. In this case, territory space becomes the resource for which individuals compete. The presence of non-breeding individuals in a population is an indication that territoriality is restricting population growth. Population density can also influence the health and thus the survival of organisms. Diseases which may increase death rates spread more easily in dense population than in sparse population. Thus, as crowding increases, the transmission rate of a disease may increase. For example, tuberculosis caused by bacteria that spread through the air when an infected person coughs or sneezes affects a higher percentage of people living in high density cities than in rural areas. Predation may be an important cause of density dependent mortality for a prey species if a predator encounters and captures more food as the population density of the prey increases. As a prey population builds up, predators may feed preferentially on that species, consuming a higher percentage of individuals. For some animal species, intrinsic factors appear to regulate population size. White-footed mice individuals become more aggressive as population size increases even when food and shelter are provided in abundance. Eventually, the population ceases to grow. These behavioral changes may be due to hormonal changes which delay sexual maturation and depress the immune system. A population can also crash due to the factors like depletion of resources, buildup of wastes and pollutants. The accumulation of toxic wastes can contribute to density dependent regulation of population size. In wine, as yeast population increases, they accumulate alcohol during fermentation. However, yeast can withstand an alcohol percentage of approximately 13% before they begin to die. Thus, density dependent factors are important in regulating populations and in keeping population at equilibrium. Density independent factors do not vary systematically in their effects as density changes. These factors affect birth and death rates in a population independent of its density. Many abiotic environmental factors, especially climate change and weather phenomena, act like this. For example, a severely cold winter may kill large numbers of population regardless of its density. Catastrophes like flood or fire may damage all populations regardless of their densities. Natural or man-made disasters can reduce population size regardless of whether carrying capacity has been reached. Disease epidemic is also considered as density independent factor. Let us see the key factor analysis as the second aspect governing population regulation. This is the method to analyze mortality factors and to find out which may be regulatory. The K values for each mortality factor together with total K, that is the sum of all factors, are plotted for several successive generations. The K factor that most closely follows the pattern of K is called the key factor. In insect population, loss of adults through migration or death is the key factor. The third aspect of population regulation includes self-regulation, which depends on the criteria of intraspecific competition. Intraspecific density dependent interactions regulate many populations in the laboratory, and in that sense they are self-regulating. Accumulation of waste products may depress the population growth. This is also considered as a self-regulation. Social behavior may also be self-regulatory. Death and failures to mate are density dependent and can regulate population density. Let us consider the immigration and emigration as fourth important aspect of population regulation. Besides natality and mortality, the immigration and emigration also affect population density. These both are features of disposal whereby individuals move from one population and die if no suitable environment is found, or they establish a new population or join an existing one at a new locale. Therefore, it can be concluded that population density can be increased by natality or immigration and decreased by mortality or emigration.
Now let's quickly look at the important points of population ecology that we have learnt in this lecture. During this lecture, we have studied population growth, in which we have derived the mathematical equation for calculating growth rate of any population. Apart from this, today we have mainly focused on population growth models. We have studied exponential model as well as logistic model of population with characteristic growth curves. In this part of ecological study, we have also got the knowledge of R selected and K selected species. At last, we have got the overview of the various factors responsible for regulation of population. We have seen density dependent and density independent factors, self-regulation as well as role of immigration, emigration, natality and mortality in population.